Season 2 is going to be amazing. We are getting the whole Christmas arc and the sweetest developments between our side couples, especially Taira and Azuma. But before that, here's a little recap of Season 1. Right from the start, when we see all of our characters, we also learn that Suzuki has a crush on Tani.
But the truth is, I'm desperately in love with you.
He sits next to her and she secretly admires his honesty, especially compared to her tendency to be a people pleaser. Then she finds out that they live in the same direction, so she gathers the courage to ask him to walk home together. On the way, she is super flustered, and when their hands touch by accident, Tani makes the first move to hold her hand.
He's holding my hand. My sweaty hand.
But he lets go before other people can see. Though the next day, Yamada confronts her about whether she and Tani are dating, as someone did actually saw them. She nervously denies it, and Tani overhears her. After school, he asks her to forget about yesterday, thinking it was a mistake on his part. Heartbroken, she finally reveals to her friends that she's in love with him, and they immediately convince her to go after him.
She's low.
She finds the courage to confess her feelings, and when he admits he feels the same way, she bursts into tears of joy. Later, Tani runs into Yamada, and noticing his friendliness, he figures out that he already knows about Suzuki's feelings for him. Then after school, as they walk home, they struggle to make conversation and end up at a park where they talk through their doubts and start to feel more comfortable with each other. He asks if she is available during the weekend for a date and accidentally shows her his search history. It was pretty embarrassing for him, but she comforts him by saying she finds it adorable and likes that he thinks about her. For their date, they grab burgers and go shopping, then head off to see a movie. They pick up matching character keychains and spend time discussing the film.
Today was awesome. But,
Before saying goodbye, she asks to take a picture together as a keepsake, and it turns out to be perfect. In the morning, Suzuki catches up with Azuma, who is surprised to learn that she has a boyfriend now, mentioning that her own boyfriend was sent to juvie.
Maybe dying alone is what I deserve for finding good people unsexy.
Oh my god, I think you broke her.
They also meet with Taira, who is just as surprised. He believes in a social hierarchy and is kind of jealous, seeing them happy without caring about what anyone thinks. He confronts Suzuki about it later, and she explains that she's attracted to how Tani stays true to himself, despite their different personalities.
But the truth is, not everyone fixates on what other people say and do. That's just me. And I've made it my whole personality.
Later, since Tani has to stay late to work in the library, she decides to stop by, but she's too shy to admit she just wanted to spend time with him. He eventually realizes and asks her to wait for him, which obviously makes her very happy. Then he randomly asks what adorable means to her because of the different ways she uses it. She explains that to her, it's just an endearing feeling. So he pats her head and calls her adorable, which makes her completely flustered.
You're adorable.
The excitement for the school festival was high, but it also brought them back to reality with end-of-term exams approaching. Yamada and Watanabe were hopelessly underprepared, so they held a group study session in the library where Tani helped explain some problems. Later that day, Suzuki decided to check out a new convenience store near her house. While there, she ran into Yamada, and they both discovered that Taira was working there. Watanabe joined them shortly after, and then to everyone's surprise, Tani showed up too. Suzuki tried to run away, embarrassed to be seen in her casual clothes, but he caught up to her on his bike anyways.
Why are you running away?
I look gross.
As they talk, he admits he felt jealous of her friends who have known her longer, wishing she felt that same level of comfort around him. Feeling a bit more relaxed, she hops on the back of his bike to head home, at least until a police bike zooms past them. For their summer festival date, she wears a beautiful yukata, and Tani immediately compliments her, calling her beautiful. They spend the night grabbing food and playing games, though she struggles to keep a straight face when she spotted other couples getting all gritty. Later, he took her to a quiet overlook to watch the fireworks. After failing to take a picture, she puts her phone away in her bag, but it slipped. As they both reach out to save it, they end up inches apart. Moving on to other characters, we finally meet Nishi. She's talking with her friend Honda when Yamada joins them. Amid their conversation, she tries to hold in her laughter, and that's when we realize Yamada is attracted to seeing people laugh, especially when it's someone he wouldn't expect.
Maybe it's just a coincidence, but he's been visiting our classroom a lot lately. Why?
He starts coming to their class more frequently, using his friendship with Honda as an excuse to see her. Eventually, he decides to ask for her contact, saying he wants to get to know her better. This surprises them both, but she agrees, hoping that she'll be less nervous while texting. Meanwhile, our main couple plans to study at the library during summer break. When they arrive and find there are no seats, Tani suggests they study at his place instead, since his parents are away. Once they're in his room, he gets surprised as Suzuki leans in. It looks like she's going for a kiss, but in reality, she was just excited to see his cat.
I got to introduce myself to a member of your family! Yay!
Before she leaves, his grandma catches them, and he decides to tell her that Suzuki is his girlfriend. Back home, she also reveals to her mom that she has a boyfriend. In class, Suzuki asks Yamada how texting with Nishi went over the summer. He explains that, unfortunately, it was still awkward and they didn't really make any progress. Then they start talking about their past partners, and Yamada brings up Suzuki's only ex.
You're so lucky. Wish it went that way for me when I was young.
Later, as they prepare for the event, we see Taira's trauma response to girls, making me feel bad for him. Finally, the school festival begins, and Tani and Suzuki checks out the photography club display, which is managed by Nishi. Despite being awkward at first, she manages to hold a conversation with them and is so happy after the interaction, that is, until she suddenly bumps into Yamada in the hall.
Hello?
At the same time, Tani and Suzuki bump into Riito, her first boyfriend. It was pretty awkward. As it turns out, they were pressured by others to start dating, though they quickly realized it wasn't the right fit. Even after trying to go back to being friends, they both felt guilty and things remained awkward.
The guiltier you feel for something that happened in the past.
The harder it is to shake the yuck out of your heart.
However, they do eventually work things out, but Tani is left feeling unsure and decides to take some time to think about it. After talking to her friend, Suzuki gets worried and goes after him. She catches up and hugs him from behind. He admits he's been feeling guilty and jealous, thinking that Rihito is more her type, but Suzuki reassures him that she loves him just as he is.
It's time to head over. Okay, Yusuke?
Moving back to when Yamada and Nishi bumped into each other, he apologizes for being too pushy, and she explains that she was simply afraid of making mistakes. Like the sunshine he is, he encourages her to embrace those mistakes instead and be honest with him. Back in the present, Taira is stuck in another one of his self-deprecating loops. This time it's triggered by a traumatic flashback of a girl telling him she disliked his personality. He turns the music up to drown out his thoughts until Suzuki and Tani arrive, surprising him.
You weren't even saying anything?
While he complains that they only visit the store when he's working, he's clearly cheered up when they tell him it's more fun with him around. After their library shift, Nishi walks home with them and grows flustered when talking to Yamada. She is beginning to realize her true feelings for him. Then Suzuki suddenly starts questioning Tani about Nishi in a very suspicious way. He is left confused. Taira suggests she might be jealous, but it leaves him feeling even more conflicted. However, after school, the truth comes out. While the group hangs out with Bubbles, Tani prepares to talk to her, but she runs over to Nishi instead and hands her the bubble wand, setting her up as Yamada is holding the soap. It turns out Suzuki wasn't jealous at all. She had realized Yamada liked Nishi and was trying to play matchmaker. In the end, Tani is relieved, but also a little embarrassed for overthinking. This time, the couple went out on a uniform date, enjoying sweet potato desserts and taking pictures at a sticker booth. Meanwhile, Azuma receives a message from an ex-boyfriend that leaves her feeling down, so Watanabe suggests they all go bowling to lift her spirits. At the alley, Taira spots a group from his middle school days and begins to stress, but Azuma reassures him they will not disturb them. Later, he asks her about her past friend group, and she explains that it got awkward because she used to date one of the guys and then started talking to another, both of whom are now seeing other girls within that same circle. It's like she is being left out. Just then, she receives another text from one of them, acting like nothing ever happened. Taira gets irritated on her behalf and tells her she has every right to be mad.
So disrespectful! You deserve to be angry when you're disrespected! You're the only one getting worn down. That can't be worth it.
In response, she admits she can never truly hate someone she once cared for, but he points out that people often mistreat her precisely because she allows them to. The next morning, Azuma thanks him for helping her realize how disrespectful they were. At the same time, he surprises her by apologizing. He had spent his time overthinking that he was too arrogant to tell her how she should feel. Back at home, with Suzuki's father and brother away, Tani visits and finally meets her mother, who is obviously just as nervous and talkative as her daughter. Moving to her room, the two struggle through some awkward small talk, though they eventually settle into a sweet moment, holding hands and even sharing a hug.
Your heartbeat is insane!
I know.
They had a good time until her father returns home unexpectedly, stunned to find his daughter with a boyfriend. He immediately launches at Tani with loads of questions.
Honey, that's enough! We'll talk about this later!
Why? We're just getting to know each other.
This is exactly why I didn't want them to meet!
Now that Tani's first birthday with Suzuki is coming up, she is determined to surprise him. She turns to Taira and Yamada for advice. Tani, however, can sense she's planning something and worries his reaction might not live up to her expectations. As they talk, Taira reflects on his own birthday, remembering how Azuma was the only one to wish him a happy birthday, gifting him a sticker that he still keeps in his wallet. On the night of his birthday, Suzuki wishes him right at midnight. Thinking he's already asleep, she whispers she loves him, only for him to sleepily whisper it back. The next day, after receiving gifts from his friends, they grabbed cake from the convenience store, gave Taira a belated birthday gift, and sat peacefully to enjoy their time.
17. My older and wiser Tani.
Thank you.
She asks him to plan their next date, and he chooses the Natural History Museum. It gets off to a rough start with the special exhibit hall being far too crowded. The rest of the museum was better, but again they have trouble finding a place to eat, eventually settling for a food truck. Feeling like the day was a disaster, he apologizes, but she says that she doesn't care what they do as long as they're together.
But really? It's always a big fat excuse to spend extra time with my Tani! Wait, is that weird?
No.
As they say goodbye, she closes her eyes, but he only hugs her and says goodnight. Just as he starts to pull away, she holds him back, presses a kiss to his lips, and then, flustered and embarrassed, runs all the way home. The day after their kiss, they are somewhat awkward around each other, even struggling to discuss their plans for the upcoming school trip. Meanwhile, Yamada helps Nishi and Honda with some preparation, taking the opportunity to ask Nishi when she'll be free so they can spend time together.
They've got a nice back and forth going. Keep doing what you're doing, Nish. Pretend I'm invisible, just wind in the trees.
For the school trip, the class is told to split into groups of 3. Azuma worries about being the odd one out, but Suzuki asks their teacher to make an exception so their entire group can stay together. Once the trip begins, she meets up with Nishi for their sweets making class. After learning about her plans for the following day, she realizes that Yamada has been altering their group's plan to match hers.
Time with her. If our paths cross, come to me for a selfie.
I'd love to.
Later in the onsen, we see Suzuki and Azuma have a serious talk about romance. And when Suzuki steps out, she spots Tani and surprises him. He admits that while he was perfectly fine being alone before, he's truly happy now that he's experiencing so many new things because of her. Overcome with emotion, Suzuki calls him by his first name and tells him she loves him. But before he can even respond, she becomes completely overwhelmed and runs away in a panic.
Simmer down, girl! Do not freak out!
Then we see Nishi spotting Yamada. She initially hesitated to approach him because he's with his friends. But with a little encouragement from her best friend, she finally walks over and manages to take a few pictures with him and Suzuki.
Huh? He texted again.
Later that night, he asked to meet her at the hotel, but since she was worried about being seen, he takes her to a quieter spot. Their interactions are beautiful as she is getting used to him. Then before they head back, he asks her out on a date after the trip, and she finally accepts, fully realizing that she has fallen for him.
I can't push my feelings down anymore. I like him.
On the other side, Taira starts to realize he's actually enjoying himself, though his past trauma keeps his self-doubt lingering. And when Tani gets motion sickness from the bus, he gets him something to drink. Though when he returns, he realizes Tani didn't need anything other than his girlfriend.
Whatever, though. At least I've got some cola now. What the hell?
On the last day, they are free to explore, so Tani and Suzuki set a date at an amusement park. They want to buy souvenirs, but he is self-conscious and holds back.
They look good on you, but they'd look weird on me.
Nah, you wouldn't look weird. Besides, in a place like this, you have to let your freak flag fly.
Right.
However, when they meet with the rest of the group, they all have panda hats, including Taira. Finally, the day ends with a beautiful picture of everyone. Moving on to Nishi and Yamada's first official date, she makes a big effort to dress up, overdoing it a little, though she gets so nervous that she ends up removing her accessories before they meet. They visit Chinatown and he does most of the talking until he finally encourages her to open up, turning it into a real conversation. As they walk, he takes her arm to lead the way and she naturally slips her hand into his. She thinks he's completely unfazed, but then they accidentally spot Tani and Suzuki on their own date. His usual calmness breaks and they both panic, running off so they won't be seen. While running, she drops all her accessories and he ends up picking them all up. On the way home, he asks her to look at him as he gently clips one back into her hair. She promises she'll try to look him in the eyes more from now on. Lastly, going back a bit, we see that Suzuki had actually spotted them earlier and had decided to go the other way. They head to the Ferris wheel for a classic romantic moment she's always dreamed of from the manga she reads, but they're both too shy to make a move while they're in public view. However, on their way home, when there is no one around, they finally go in for a kiss. But unfortunately, they are interrupted by a passing car that surprisingly belongs to Suzuki's parents, and that's how their date ends. To be honest, I was planning to keep this recap short, but there were just too many scenes that I wanted to add. Plus, I also wanted to talk about some manga spoilers and the scenes I'm most excited to see in Season 2. But I think I'll save that for another time. Anyways, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening to me. Take care of yourself and goodbye.
I don't really wanna hurt you, but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change.